She was 21 and sleeping in the backseat of a rusted blue sedan after her stepfather told her not to come home again. The last thing her mother said before closing the door was, "I just can't do this anymore." Not angrily. That almost made it worse. By November, the cold had started crawling through the cracks in the car doors at night. She parked behind an abandoned grocery store outside a dying mill town where nobody asked questions. Every morning she wiped condensation from the windows with the sleeve of her gray hoodie and tried to decide what mattered more, gas money or breakfast. Her name was Clara Bennett. And 3 days before her 22nd birthday she spent her last $10 on an abandoned mill office nobody wanted. The listing had been buried in a county tax auction. One blurry photograph. Rotten wood siding. Broken windows. Unsafe structure. Most people didn't even bid. But what she didn't know was, the old office beside the Waterwheel had been hiding something for nearly 70 years. Something nobody had touched. Something her grandfather once tried to find. And on her very first night inside that collapsing building, Clara heard a sound beneath the floorboards that made her stop breathing. Before we continue, if stories like this pull you in, stories about forgotten places, family wounds, and lives rebuilt from almost nothing, take a second to subscribe. And if you've ever felt lost at the start of adulthood, you're not alone. Clara grew up in a narrow Pennsylvania river town where mornings smelled like wet leaves, chimney smoke, and machine oil drifting from the old textile plants. Her grandfather, Walter Bennett, used to say the river carried memories. "You listen close enough," he'd tell her, "you can hear what people left behind." When Clara was little, she believed him. Walter had been a millwright, one of the last men in the county who knew how to repair water-powered machinery by hand. His fingers were thick and scarred, permanently darkened by grease and walnut stain. He could sharpen blades without measuring, fix cracked gears with scraps of steel, and build shelves straighter than factory machines. He smelled like cedar shavings and tobacco leaves. Every Saturday morning, he took Clara with him into old buildings most people ignored, abandoned barns, collapsed workshops, empty grain houses near the river. He never stole anything. He just looked, studied, touched walls like they were alive. "Places remember people," he'd whisper. At 8 years old, Clara followed him everywhere carrying a rusted coffee can full of nails. Those were the only years of her childhood that felt quiet because back home, silence usually meant trouble. Her father disappeared before she turned 6. No goodbye, no letter. Her mother worked double shifts at a nursing home and came home exhausted, angry at the world, angry at bills, angry at herself. Then came Raymond. Heavy boots, heavy drinking, heavy breathing in the hallway at night. He wasn't cruel all the time. That made it confusing. Some evenings he brought groceries and fixed broken pipes. Other nights he slammed cabinet doors hard enough to shake dust from the ceiling. Clara learned to listen for moods by sound alone, the way keys hit the counter, the speed of footsteps, the click of a beer bottle opening. So she escaped whenever she could, and Walter always let her. His workshop sat behind a tiny white house at the edge of town. The roof sagged slightly in the middle and the windows fogged, in winter from the wood stove inside. That workshop became her real childhood. She remembered the scratchy sound of old jazz records playing while snow fell outside, the orange sparks drifting upward when Walter welded metal late at night, and the smell of coffee burning on the hot plate, because he always forgot it was there. He taught her things nobody else cared about anymore. How to sand warped wood patiently, how to tell oak from chestnut by grain patterns, how to hear when a machine was off. "Everything speaks," he used to say. Most people just stop listening. When Clara turned 13, Walter started taking her to one place more than any other, Blackwater Mill, the old textile mill outside town. It had closed decades earlier after a flood damaged the lower levels. Most of the property had been stripped for metal long ago, but the small administrative office near the Waterwheel still stood beside the river. Barely. The first time Clara saw it, rain tapped softly against broken windows while vines crawled across the stone walls. The giant water wheel beside the building no longer turned, but Walter stared at it for a very long time, almost like he missed it. "You ever work here?" Clara asked once. Walter nodded slowly. "Long time ago." That was all he said. But after that, she noticed something strange. Whenever they visited Blackwater Mill, Walter became quieter. He'd walk around the office carefully, measure distances with his eyes, tap sections of wall with his knuckles, and study the floor like he was searching for something he couldn't quite remember. One afternoon, Clara found him kneeling beside the old waterwheel support beams. "What are you looking for?" she asked. Walter smiled faintly. "Maybe nothing." But she knew that wasn't true. The older Clara got, the less stable home became. Money disappeared faster. Arguments lasted longer. Her mother stopped laughing, completely sometime during Clara's high school years. Then Walter got sick. Lung disease. Years of dust and chemicals from old mills had finally settled into his body for good. Near the end, he barely left his chair beside the workshop stove. But even then, his hands never stopped moving, sharpening tools, sorting screws, folding small pieces of paper into neat squares. One winter evening, when Clara was 17, she visited him during a snowstorm. The power had gone out. Only lantern light filled the workshop. Walter sat wrapped in blankets, staring toward the dark windows. "You know what regret is?" he asked quietly. Clara shrugged. "Something you wish you changed?" Walter nodded slowly. "Sometimes." He looked toward an old metal toolbox near the wall. "Sometimes it's something you almost found." That sentence stayed with her for years. A month later, Walter died in his sleep. After the funeral, Clara returned to the workshop alone. The place smelled cold now, empty. She opened drawers carefully, touching old tools like they might still be warm from his hands. Inside the metal toolbox, she found receipts, rusted bolts, and a folded photograph of Blackwater Mill from 1968. On the back, Walter had written only 4 words. "Water remembers what sinks." Clara didn't understand it. Not then. Life moved too fast afterward. Bills stacked up. Her mother remarried Raymond officially. The workshop got sold, and adulthood arrived the way winter storms do. Slowly at first, then all at once. By 21, Clara was working late shifts at a diner outside Harrisburg. She rented a tiny basement room that smelled like mildew and radiator steam. Every paycheck disappeared immediately. Then the diner cut staff. Then her landlord raised rent. Then Raymond showed up drunk one night demanding money her mother had borrowed. Everything spiraled from there. The final argument happened during freezing rain. Raymond yelling, her mother crying, Clara shouting back for the first time in years, and finally, the suitcase thrown onto the porch. That night, she slept in her car,